Can't can the can. It's true. And also on this episode of Life's Potluck Buffet, we'll learn that you can the can. I'll explain more after this short musical soundbite. This is John Paulus, and you're listening to Life's Potluck Buffet only on YouTube. If you like this video or any other video, please give it a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button. That should have made it do its magic thing. And if you have a Brave browser and you use it and you have basic attention tokens from using the Brave browser, you can contribute those to Life's Potluck Buffet with John Paulus by clicking on that triangle that is orange and purple and blue next to the lion's head in your browser bar. Thank you for the support, and thank you for listening. It really means a lot to me. Now, some of you listeners out there are familiar with a commercial that aired for decades many years ago for a major supermarket chain, mostly on the East Coast of the United States, that, well, the commercial played on its big sale on canned goods and the cancan, the dance popular in France, especially certain fun parts of Paris in the 19th century. And spoiler alert, the etymologies of those words are not related. The cancan, or cancan as it's pronounced in French, and cans as in a can of corn, not related. The can as in the can of corn or a can of beans or a can of anything, that tin can or whatever you call it wherever you are. That word can may be from a word in other languages eventually that came through to Latin as canna or cana and meant container at that point. Although earlier on, there's evidence of words that sound very similar in a bunch of different languages that mean reed, and then ultimately it becomes like the empty reed-like thing where, kind of it's hollow in the middle, and then all of a sudden you get a container that is hollow in the middle, and it starts to become like a can. That's the thought behind the word can, as in can of corn or can of beans. Can, as in I can do this, which we also have in the title of the episode, that is from a word that is in languages like German, also the können in German, and that is a word that means to be able to, and it also means to know. And in German, the word still means to know. In English, we can't use can anymore for know. In German, you could just say if you können something, you know it. In English, we can't say I can that. You used to be able, and if we could take a trip back in time 300 years, 400 years, we could definitely be understood if we said, "Oh, I can that dance," meaning I know that dance. Now, can, as another type of verb, colloquially, informally, in slang in English, means to end something or put an end to it. Like if you say can it, you mean like be quiet or stop doing that. Or if I said can that can dancing, I might be saying stop doing your can dancing. So can also mean like, putting something in a can, like kind of putting a lid on it, stopping it, containing it, right? So it means that in English slang, in many dialects of English. So can also mean that. And so now that I'm saying can, let me talk a little bit about the dance. Now, the first thing that we have to absolutely get out of the way is that the can that we stereotypically see portrayed in films and in TV shows and, the things that happen at the place that was famously called the Red Mill, that you might know it as the Moulin Rouge, the place where there certainly was can dancing. But the can wasn't just as it's usually portrayed. unless you've seen a show where men also dance the can-can. See, most of our kind of stereotypical can-can dancing is women doing can-can, high kicks and so forth. But there was a very famous act where a man and a woman together danced the can-can, which developed from a square dance called a quadrille, which literally means square dance. This square, quadriller is to square something, and so in French, and so it was a kind of particular move in that type of dancing, and it was a particularly lively and boisterous type of dancing that people just did. It wasn't like necessarily a formal thing to start out, and the word in French, cancan, also means things like gossip, and also kind of meant apparently at some point like a quarrel. And you can see how sometimes like words for dances develop from these conversational words. And the root of that word is a little bit uncertain. I've seen some suggestions that it's from the Latin quam, which means although, as an interjection in an argument or quarrel. I don't know. Maybe. There are other words in dialectical French that also resemble this word, so who knows? Or it might be onomatopoetic. You can imagine a French version of Charlie Brown's teacher going con, 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 right? Sounds like just want, just talk. So who knows? But nonetheless, that dance became very popular, especially in the livelier parts of Paris, where, for example, the Moulin Rouge was located, and which is the Red Mill in English. And there were two people, a woman and a man, who were the most kind of famous, in many ways, dancers in this context. And they're represented on that famous poster that is part of the artwork for today's episode. And they are Louise Weber, whose stage name was La Goulue, and a guy whose name was Jacques Renaudin, who is known by his stage name of Valentin le Désossé, which means Valentine the Boneless, because his moves were so acrobatic that it was like he could do so many moves that it was like he didn't have any bones to prevent him from, moving anywhere he wanted to move. That was a really long explanation, but obviously you get it. Anyway, okay. So they danced as a pair. Louise Weber as a paid dancer. That was what she did for a living. And as for Jacques Renaudin, he was a wine merchant, and he really just danced at the Moulin Rouge for fun. It was a hobby for him. So that's really interesting. And we'll ask the cards about this in a second, but that's kind of neat how half the pair it was their paid job and half the pair it was a hobby. So they were very popular, and again, they would be the dance that they did. He was a can-can dancer as well. So next time you see that commercial from that supermarket, which you probably doesn't air anymore, you can see it on YouTube though, and think about the fact that you're only seeing half of the can-can coin. And then on the other side is someone like Jacques Renaudin, who would be doing the can as well. Just different moves. So, well, some different moves. Oh, yeah. And back in the 19th century, some people in France thought that the cancan, was uncouth. And the only reason I said that was because couth and uncouth also come from the same word as can. Not can, the thing you hold that holds beans. The can as in I am able to, or I know, in obsolete words. So if you're learning English and you don't need to use can to mean I know. It can't do that like in can't it cannot do that like in German anymore. It could, which is also from can, and could is the new form of what used to be couth. Couth was the original form of could. And so when you were couth, that meant you knew something, and that so therefore things that are couth are things that are, worldly and refined and in the know, whereas uncouth means not in the know, right? Boorish, as we might say. Well, as I might say, you might not say that, but anyway, boorish with two O's. Okay, so let's ask the cards before I get too uncouth. Let's ask the cards what they can tell us. All right, so yellow lemons, blue dumplings, magenta noodles. Cards, tell us some things. All right. It's card 46. Always begin with specific and detailed action. To clean a dirty pot, begin by scrubbing one dirty spot and solve all problems and tackle all jobs the same way. Begin with a specific and concrete action on one small element. So think about that today. Imagine you cook that can of beans and you got to clean the pot that you cooked them in. Think about how you do that. And then think about how you can apply that same approach of starting with one specific action so that it doesn't become so overwhelming to clean that whole big pot. I hope you have a great day and that you can fit the cancan into your day today. And I'll see you tomorrow on Life's Potluck Buffet.